First game in a while, it seemed like you really aired it out. Was that kind of what you expected coming into this game, or did you think there would be a lot more running?
Oh no, the game plan was, start out fast through the air, and then hand off, get the run game going. So yeah, it was expected.
Both sides of the ball this year, you guys have been kind of up and down half to half. What do you think you guys can do to kind of prevent that from happening again?
It's just honestly just staying locked in and staying on the script. Keep doing the same thing we were doing in the first half. Don't change anything. Don't change the play calling. Don't change the scheme. Just keep it the same, and the players just execute. It's as easy as that.
Dennis had that drop early, and then pretty much after that, caught everything that went his way. What kind of gave you the confidence to keep going back to him even after that one drop?
I trust Dennis, and he knows that. So it's just going out there and him trusting himself. He knows he has the ability, and I preach that, and all those guys who may not seem as confident in themselves, but Dennis is going to be a great player by very soon. He knows he's got it, and it's just going out there and actually doing it, because we see it in practice all the time. He's real comfortable out there. It's just going out there and doing it. He's starting to really show flashes of what he can do.
How do you feel?
I feel the same as, after the game, so it's good, or before the game, so it's good.
Lane said you didn't practice much this week. Just how hard is it for you to prepare for a game when you don't have those reps?
I didn't practice all week till Friday. It's all about mental reps. You don't really skip anything if you're paying attention and you're seeing every look and you're staying locked in practice to the play call, seeing the defensive looks, and just staying on pace. Just because you're out doesn't mean you're not paying attention. You know what I mean? And that's just taking that pro mindset and what we preach, and actually doing it. Just because you're hurt, you're still going to be playing in the game. I'm not injured. I'm just stuff's just hurting. So just staying locked in and going through the call sheet, staying doing everything I can do mentally.
How hard is it for the competitor and you to kind of take the business decision and slide when you have to?
It is hard because I got to think about it. I have to think to slide, because I try to drain out every run, and there's some runs I felt like I could have, but I just had to just fall and trigger that in my head. So it's something that I gotta muscle memory it and just get it down.
We'll take questions up top.
Well, Matt, the obvious question: what inspired the new haircut?
I wanted to trim it. Didn't quite get a trim. I got a butch, so I just had to shave it off. And I used to get my head shaved as a little kid, and my dad loves it. Every time as a kid, my dad used to, if he could grab my hair, he'd put his hand on my head, and if he could grab my hair, he'd shave it. So, I'm used to it, so it don't really bother me.
Did you cut it yourself?
Oh no, it looks like.
No, but I guess for you, I just want to get your perspective on the other side of the football. Just talk about Sam Williams. He was able to set the single season record today. What have you just seen from him, throughout this season? And again, he's playing hurt too, but still performing at a high level like yourself.
I'm proud of Sam. He's came a long way. The hard work is definitely showing, and the opportunity and the hard work meet. You get Sam Williams. So kid's been working day in and day out ever since he's been here. But just staying on pace and doing the same thing. Don't change anything. Don't get complacent, and just keep working, because we still got a long way to go.
Matt, what does it say about this offense when you have all the injuries that you're doing, you guys? I know you only put up 3 in the second half, but to put up the numbers that y'all did, yards-wise and points-wise, and you specifically in the running backs, what does it show about this offense that it's able to do that despite all the injuries?
Not necessarily happy with, there's some good stuff, but just not finishing drives. Like I said, in the red zone, we just got to keep everything the same. When we're on the roll, don't change it. Just keep doing what we're doing and play fast, like we preach. I think that got away from us a little bit. it's just something we got to fix. And, I think we're going to get it down. And as for the other, third, second string player, it don't matter who's out there. Whoever's out there, they're going to get the job done. And that's why they're out there. So it's not like we got to settle for anybody. And everybody in this room that's going to be here on Monday, they're able to get the job done, every single one of them, and they know that. So it's a next man up mentality. And when we get our guys back, it's just a plus.
I noticed after the drive in the third or fourth quarter, I'm not sure, the one that resulted in Caden missing the field goal, I saw you pull your teammates aside kind of on the bench to kind of rally them up. What did you kind of tell them at that moment in the game? I believe y'all were up 27-14 late in the third or early fourth.
Yeah, I know exactly. It was just, just not finishing. It was always just that one play that was a drive killer. Missed block, missed throw, catch or drop. Just things like that, pre-snap penalties, holding calls, like all that stuff is hurting us. It's hard to go from, we just gained 10 yards and then we got a 10-yard penalty. So now we lost 20 yards. And it's just, that stuff's hard to get out of. And, when we're on the roll and we're doing everything right, it's hard for the defense to get us out of rhythm. And then when we get a big explosive play, and then we get a setback, and it's like, okay, now we got to dig ourselves out of this. And it was nothing they were doing. We were just hurting ourselves, like it usually is. We're just hurting ourselves, and we just got to be smarter, have less penalties. And that just comes down to being locked into details, understanding your role and playing it.
Kiffin just came in here and talked about how a lot of quarterbacks, especially with your high-level talent and a probable first-round draft pick, wouldn't opt to play in this game dealing with your injuries. What is it that kind of makes you flip that switch to want to play in this game?
I know there's people on this team that look up to me, and I know how I think of, there's a fine line of the position I'm in right now and being hurt and being able to play. And, I just think it wasn't one of those things where I needed to step back and not play this game. I didn't think I needed to do that, and I didn't want to set that example for the younger guys. So, I'm just playing football. I'm not, like I said, I'm not injured. I'm just hurt. You can play through that. And my teammates know that, and they know they got to help me out even more because I only got one leg. So they definitely did that, and I'm proud of them. Just because like I said, we're moving guys around, a lot of moving parts. Center playing right guard playing center, and just getting in rotations like that. And it's tough because the rules change for them, and it's not their usual position. So those guys definitely deserve something from me, and I'm gonna get them dinner like I usually do. So yeah, I'm proud of them.